Looks like Frank and I are socially distancing. We're in different corners of the lot.
We are at opposite opposite ends of the borough building.
Okay, everything is live and everything's ready to go, Mr. Tomasic.
All right. Bill, you're on mute.
You're still muted, Bill.
I'm mute. Hello?
No, Bill Tomasic.
Am I through now?
You're good.
Okay, am I continuous? Because I was hitting the button before. Okay, I'm going to lift my fingers off. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
so that particular item is off, so I'll be live the entire time. Okay, excuse me. Call to order the public session of council, August 19th, 2020, for the Borough of Forest Hills. Pledge of allegiance, please. Mayor Porco.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burley. Ms. DeMarco.
Present.
Mr. Erbaldinger.
Here.
Mr. Gorel. Mr. Gorel, I think you're on mute, Bill.
Here.
Mr. Lawrence. You're on mute too, Jack. I see Mr. Lawrence, so I'm going to assume he's here.
Yeah, he's here.
He
Okay,
just came
Mr.
up.
Mr. Thielacker,
Here.
Mr. Tomasic,
Here.
Mayor Porco,
Here.
Ms. Sullivan,
Here.
Mr. Corbel,
Here.
Mr. Gilliland,
Present.
and I'm present as well.
Okay, President's report. Same as always. I think we're doing well around in the borough and around the area with the COVID-19. All I do is suggest that everybody keeps the safe practices, wear the mask, and make sure that we keep this COVID-19. That concludes my report. I also should say that there was an exec session following the August 11th committee meeting to discuss legal issues with the solicitor. Mayor's report, Mayor Porco.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. My report is actually going to be brief this evening. Just wanted to make everybody aware that Forest Hills Borough, in partnership with the Allegheny County Health Department, will be sponsoring and hosting a free COVID-19 mobile testing unit right here in Forest Hills. And that's going to occur on Tuesday, September 8th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The mobile testing unit is meant to serve not only the borough of Forest Hills, but some of our surrounding area neighbors, and will be held specifically in the Forest Hills Westinghouse Lodge parking lot. We felt that the parking lot was a large enough space to accommodate the actual mobile unit, which is basically a big traveling mobile home sort of automobile. And then there'll be plenty of ample parking. You can schedule your appointment the first hour and a half from 9 a.m. until 10:30 a.m. is going to be reserved exclusively for Forest Hills residents. So the first hour and a half of testing is reserved exclusively for Forest Hills residents. And if you would just go to www.alleghenycovidtesting.com, that'll give you the opportunity to register. So that is pretty much, actually, one more thing. We're going to be altering our pool times moving forward for the remainder of the summer. And that is essentially in response to some of the pool staff returning to college. And so with us being a little bit short-staffed, the new times will be starting, I think, August 24th. So starting next week, our first session will run from noon until 3:30 p.m. And our second session will run from 5 o'clock until 8 p.m. And then this will allow our limited staff to kind of make sure that we're wiping everything down between sessions, have an opportunity to go on break for lunch or dinner. And registration will be again by telephone from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And that pretty much concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tax collectors report, Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. President. My report is for the month of July. Our current year real estate collections from July were $139,038. Refunds issued during the month were $3,007. So after refunds, our total collections were $136,031. Year to date, I've collected $2,654,809, and we are at 91% of our budgeted figure of $2,912,587. And that is the end of the report.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Chief of Police report, Chief Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say thank you to the residents. We had quite a few weeks of traffic headaches down on Ardmore Boulevard with the construction. And I just want to say that we had one incident that we really had to get involved with, the construction crew and the residents and the police and everyone traveling on the highway did a really good job. And, I just wanted to say thank you to the officers for the many hours they had to put in. And we're almost done. So there might be just a minor inconvenience with the final portion to be repaved. That should be a lot shorter than these last few weeks have been, which have been fairly difficult. That's the extent of my report.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Richard is not on. Fire Chief report, Chief Thielacker. Is Chief Thielacker here, Tom?
No, he's not on.
Okay, thank you. Solicitors report, Mr. Corbel.
Nothing to report this evening.
Okay. Wilkinsburg Penn Joint Water Authority. Ms. Braz is not present. Therefore, I will simply state what's in the agenda. The streets, 10 breaks, the streets with the breaks, Washington, Decatur, Norway, Bevington, Cherry Valley, Greensburg Pike, and Ardmore Boulevard, some with more than one break. And the water company will be seeking bids for the Cascade pipe replacement. Moving on to other committee and board reports, Ms. DeMarco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had sent around to all council members a series of 8 resolutions from Connect on which they are asking a vote at their September meeting. As their official delegate to Connect, I am requesting permission to vote on behalf of the Forest Hills Borough in support of these resolutions. If you need me to elaborate on any of them, I'd be happy to do so. There's one on recycling, which basically asks that we will share data and information. It doesn't ask for any addition, mostly information sharing. The law enforcement assisted diversion, we've had a briefing about that in the past. The transportation is the looking at a transit-oriented development best practices is something that we're planning to develop during this year. And the Coordinate PA is planning to work with neighbors and utility companies. We've received an inquiry about participating in that, which Wendy will be evaluating later. We did a resolution in support of the census taking and lead safety for pipe replacement. There's a resolution for stormwater action. which will be basically a coordinating function amongst the Connect companies. And there's a volunteer fire study which members will be engaging in analysis. So if you have any concerns or objections after reading these things, if you could please let me know before the 17th of September. Otherwise, I will plan to vote in support of all of these resolutions. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. I believe that there is, without objection, you have our consent to represent the borough.
Thank you.
And thank you for those reports. Pennsylvania Municipal League, Mr. Lawrence.
No report.
Okay, and Turtle Creek Cog, Mr. Thielacker.
No report.
Okay, thank you. Public comment, agenda and non-agenda items. All persons wishing to address items based on the explanation below will be heard at this time. At this time, citizens may address council on any issue appearing on today's agenda or any other issue you may wish to bring before council. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Forest Hills will be permitted to address council. This is the only public comment period for this meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before council who may speak for a maximum of 10 minutes. Citizens are asked to use the microphone at the speaker stand. With our modifications at this time. Clearly state their name and address for the record and keep comments brief and to the point. Spell the name for the record, and speakers are reminded that council uses these comment periods as opportunities to gather information and not to respond directly to concerns raised. Information gathered will not be discussed at the business meeting, but instead will be referred by the council president to the appropriate committee for review and discussion at the next committee meeting. Do we have anybody on board that wishes to speak?
Actually, we have 0 attendees tonight, Mr. President, so we can go ahead and proceed with the meeting.
Okay, thank you. We will just state here at this time that the next scheduled committee meetings will be using the Zoom format Tuesday, September 1st and September 8th. And we don't expect any changes or modifications and continuing in with the Zoom format. That being said, committee reports, operations and policy, Mr. Lawrence, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. This will be quick. I move to approve the minutes from the July 15th, 2020 council meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions, comments? None being, voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it.
Very quickly, the Environmental Advisory Council will be at some point conducting a survey via postcard regarding climate action plan. The committee as a whole has requested the solicitor to draft what we would call a right to respond policy. This is in its very initial stages, but the basic idea is that citizens would have the right to put on record a response to any particular type of police report or complaint that is filed. And we're looking into even definitions of those terms. And I believe that is all I need to cover. Everything is there. So that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Finance Committee, Ms. DeMarco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I make motion to approve the payment of bills for the month of June in the following amounts. From the general fund budget, $135,740.43. From the corrective action budget, $313,586.33. From the fire protection fee, $7,176.29. And for the borough building, 4400 borough building, $2,642.85. The corrective action budget is for the Alcosan bills, supplies, and the sewer refunds. And the 4400 is for landscaping for the borough building.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? None being, roll call vote, please. Mr. Morris.
Mr. Brule, Ms. DeMarco, I see you
Yes.
said yes.
Yes.
Mr. Erbaldinger,
Yes.
Mr. Gorel,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Thielacker,
Yes.
Mr. Tomasic.
Yes.
I noted that Mr. Burley's microphone is muted, but I did see him say yes.
Okay. Thank you. I have a motion to approve the payment of bills for the month of July in the following amounts. From the general fund budget, $188,571.98. From the corrective action budget, $2,835.71. From the fire protection fee, $8,620.57. From the capital improvements, $38,550.80. From the borough building, $3,517.49. And for road improvement, $213.19. Again, the capital budget was for the spray park construction and engineering. And the borough building was for continued landscaping and sound improvements to the council chambers.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Okay, roll call vote, please. Mr. Morse.
Mr. Burley, Ms. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Erbaldinger,
Yes.
Mr. Gorel,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Thielacker,
Yes.
President Tomasic.
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you. I have a motion to authorize the borough manager to extend payment deadlines for borough fees without penalties through the end of the year, December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Questions, comments? I would like to just say that I think this is a pretty simple process we're going through, makes everything easy. So I appreciate this motion and think it's good for our residents. So we have a motion and a second. Voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I'm sorry, okay, so everybody was an aye on that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, under our general report, I would just want to note that we'll begin consideration of the 2021 budget. Mr. Morris, is there anything you wish to comment on regarding that process at this time?
Only that everyone should have received a memo, and it's the same procedure as before. We're just going to be a little bit more cautious, and even though we already are pretty cautious, I'm going to be a little bit more cautious. We'll take a little bit more time on the September finance meeting to just briefly discuss the process. Other than that, I have nothing else.
Okay, and I note that we did receive $125,000 in reimbursement towards COVID extra expenses. This was a reimbursement and it didn't completely cover all of our expenses. Is that correct?
Right, it was from the CARES fund that the federal government approved. It covered mainly police salaries. That was the easiest to cover. And there are still a lot more we could put in, but we're waiting to see if anything additional comes either from the federal government or from FEMA or PEMA.
Right, and we are sequestering those funds so that we can easily retrieve them. I must note that Wendy had that filed on a Tuesday and we got the check on a Friday. I mean, it was really a pretty rapid turnaround. I thank you so much for your diligence on that. Okay,
Right.
that's all I have in my report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marco. Borough Property, Mr. Thielacker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one voting motion, and that's I move to appoint Chris Mamico as an alternate to the Recreation Board for a term that concludes on February 28th, 2025.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? None being, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Motion passes.
That's all I have. All the general report items are recurring items. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Thielacker. Planning and zoning, Mr. Burley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, move to approve ordinance number ****, amending chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinance to regulate wireless communication facilities in the public right of way.
Okay,
Second.
that number is 1085.
1085, okay. And we have an ordinance
Sorry,
regarding that.
Who seconded that? I missed.
I didn't get a second yet. Do we have a second?
Mr. Lawrence seconded that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any comments or questions? Okay, none being, roll call vote, please, Mr. Morris.
Mr. Burley,
Yes.
Ms. DeMarco,
Yes,
Mr. Erbaldinger, Mr. Goro,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
yes,
Mr. Thielacker,
Yes.
President Tomasic.
Yes, motion passes.
Motion, move to approve ordinance number, is this also 1080 or is this another?
1086.
1086, all right. Amending chapter 27 of the Code of Ordinance regulating wireless communication facilities located outside of the public right of way and those facilities taller than 50 feet.
again, second that,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Questions, comments? None being. Roll call vote, please, Mr. Morris.
Mr. Burley,
Yes.
Ms. DeMarco,
yes,
Mr. Erbaldinger,
Yes,
Mr. Goro,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
yes,
Mr. Thielacker,
Yes.
President Tomasic.
Yes, motion passes.
In my general report, number one, we're talking about a relationship with Wilkins Township, and you can read all the details at your leisure. Number two is we're trying to get a report from our code inspector, Mr. Don Brenzel, to just let us know what's going out there. And I think it would be nice if he got onto the Zoom program next time. Let's see, I'm getting there. Okay, number three, we're trying to get the sidewalks improved. The borough is concerned that there's so many complaints about the sidewalks. So I think we need to continue to review some of the things that the residents are concerned about. Also, number four, Patty discussed an investigation regarding the fracking with the Attorney General. Patty, do you have anything you want to add to that?
we discussed this in committee and decided not to amend our regulation from 500 feet setback to 2,500 feet setback. I did look at the map, and if we would in fact extend it to 2,500 feet, we would extend beyond the border of the borough in two parts. And I think that would cause some difficulty. So I think we'll leave it as is.
Okay, sounds great. All right, that's the end of my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burley. Public Works Committee, Mr. Goro.
Yes, thank you. I have no voting motions this evening. I do want to touch on two things in my general report. The 2020 paving project will start mid next month, according to the contractor. And I did want to discuss that we have formed a subcommittee for the residents on Donnell Drive and are working on connecting them more walkable to the borough of Forest Hills. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Goro.
Excuse me, I have an item to add if I could.
Yes, go ahead.
We received notification yesterday afternoon that our application for a grant to assist in the development of the stormwater retention, the sedimentation pond behind the park and ride lot was approved by the state for $150,000.
Could you say that again? You were cutting out.
We had applied for a small water and sewer system grant to assist in the cost of changing the pond behind the parking ride lot on Avenue B to collect sediment as part of our MS4 permit to comply with that permit. That grant was approved for $150,000.
Is that a reimbursable grant?
I'm sorry?
Is that a reimbursable grant?
I believe it is.
It is. So we have to spend it first and then get it back.
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you.
That's all I had to.
Thank you,
Okay.
Dave. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Goro. Moving on, Public Safety, Mr. Erbaldinger.
thank you, Mr. President. I have no voting motions. And in my general report, I have to highlight the point number 5. As agreed in committee, I wrote a letter to that resident and highlighted, like we discussed, that we think it's temporary until all the work in Ardmore is done. We will revisit that, and that the police will run the plates on parked cars just to see if there are any downtown commuters who shouldn't park there. And that's it for my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Erbaldinger. Old business, right to respond has already been covered by Mr. Lawrence. I'd like to comment on the investigation which we just ended. For the record, last year, there was a complaint filed by Brian Armstrong of the Forest Hills Police Association against me. They were allegations. However, Officer Armstrong, or the President Armstrong, shared this alleged complaint with various members of the public and some and public employees as well, and it went as far as Channel 11, who called and asked about the complaint. Generally speaking, that's not supposed to occur, but it did. Subsequently, we have a conclusion that was sent by the borough to the Police Association, and it reads as follows. Conclusion of investigation of Forest Hills Police Association complaint. I am writing on behalf of Borough Council to inform the Forest Hills Police Association that the investigation into the complaint regarding Councilman Tomasic has been completed and the results of the investigation have been shared with Borough Council. Councilman Tomasic was fully exonerated. Moreover, the allegations made by Officer Brian Armstrong on behalf of the Forest Hills Police Association that Councilman Tomasic used inappropriate language while referring to a female borough employee and the chief of police are wholly without merit and not supported by the evidence provided to the investigator. Accordingly, council now considers the matter of the investigation into the FHPA's complaint regarding Councilman Tomasic closed. Very truly yours, Patricia DeMarco. I'm going to make sure that's in the record, and I would like to make sure that all of the people that were involved in this situation and exposed to this set of allegations, be sent or given hand-delivered a letter, this particular letter. And I would also like that we send to Channel 11 this conclusion as well, because they have it on record at their news station. So that's all I'd like to do. And that's all I have for old business. Okay. New business, anyone?
Mr.
Yes,
Tomasic,
Mr. Ward.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I meant to say this at the beginning of the meeting, for those people who may be live streaming this on YouTube, I meant to mention that our agenda is on our website. So if there's things you're not understanding based on what the members of council or the mayor are explaining, you can find the agenda for this meeting there. Usually we publish that in advance. The attendees know that. It is mentioned on our website as well in advance, but just in case there's anybody live streaming this, I wanted to mention the agenda will be on there for a while, so you can see that. And I apologize for not saying that at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Next scheduled meeting, September 16th. We've already talked about the committee meetings at the beginning of the month. That being said, meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have
you
a good
all.
evening.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, I'm stopping everything now, just so you know.
Okay.